Now, the title of this lesson was not prepared with us fixing to go into a high 90s week. It was that just, this lesson was prepared to be the Sunday that I was sick and Todd had to pinch hit. And so, had nothing to do with that. But I'm going to guarantee you that the heat we're going to experience this week is nothing like the heat in Daniel 3. You know, I think back to Daniel 3 and the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And I think back to a little Sunday school room in Alabama where I was taught that little story about these 3 Hebrew children that went into the fiery furnace. And I just remember back to those days when that story was taught. But you know, we don't really reflect a lot on that story. But there's really a great story of faith that can be found within Daniel 3. So let's just kind of give ourselves just a little bit of background of Daniel. So in Daniel 1, it comes out and it's like 605 BC. And Babylon takes over Israel. And the king, when he went in and took over Israel, he exiled the brightest and the noblest Israelite youth to indoctrinate them into the Babylonian culture. So he's going to turn these Jewish children into Babylonian children. And the whole idea is we want them to forget their God. And I want them to be focused on me, the king Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. And so we're going to find out how that story played out. Because after they went and they become a part of Babylon, then they were run through the school, so to speak, and they were told that you need to eat these foods and you need to drink these drinks. And Daniel said, we just want to eat vegetables and drink water. Those foods are not what we need to eat. They were probably unclean foods that went against what God had instructed them with the law of Moses. And so the guy who's kind of the keeper of the school, he just kind of says, you know, guys, you need to really eat this food, because if y'all begin to start looking a little weak and a little sickly, then I'm going to be in trouble. And I don't want to lose my head. Or I don't want to go in the fiery furnace. And so they went ahead and Daniel talked him into letting them go a few days. So they went the few days, and they turned out to be healthier than the ones who were eating the king's food. And so as we move on, then Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel also was an interpreter of dreams. And so the king, he went in and he got all his guys to start interpreting, and they couldn't do it. And then they said, well, there's this Daniel over here. He can help you out. And he began to give this interpretation. So Daniel and Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego began to move up in the ranks of Babylon. Well, the other people were getting showed up, and they were getting jealous. These Jewish boys are showing us up. And so they began, when the king made this decree, they began to tell, you know, king, these boys aren't doing that. So the king had built this golden image, and it's like 90 feet high. 90 feet's like the width of a basketball course. From home plate to first base, 90 feet. The width, the length of a 18-wheeler, 90 feet. That's a really tall image. All made of gold. And the king began to put out his demands. And so as we look here in Daniel 3, beginning with 5 and 6, let's begin as we read through the text. And there's going to be a couple of hiccups in here where me and the computer got confused, and either I didn't hit saved or it forgot that I hit saved. But that's okay. We'll work our way right on through. Daniel 3, 5 and 6. As soon as you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the zither, the lyre, the harps, the pipes, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the image of gold that the king Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown in to a blazing fire, a blazing furnace, a blazing furnace. For you music people, that's a lyre and a zither according to Google. So that's really all I got to go on there, but I thought I would put the pictures up there. Looks like it's in the Hart family. Might have been something that maybe we were told David played. Maybe it had different pitch. But anyway, there's a lyre and a zither. So as we think back to what's happening here, so the king makes the command. The Babylonians get jealous. They go and say, King, they're not bowing down. And so the king comes to them, and then here they go through and they announce the decree again. Now when you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the zither, the lyre, the harps, the pipes, and all kinds of music, if you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made, very good. But if you do not worship it, you will be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace, that what God will be able to rescue you from my hand. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand? Well, he's going to find out that there is a God, and he is able. And that same God is able to deliver you out of the chaos of life that we live. So think back to this situation and put yourself in the shoes of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And so Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves. Pretty bold. Before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve will be able to save us from it, and he will rescue us from your hand, O king. Our God is able to deliver. So think about it. They stood up to the old king, kind of got the king fired up. He's like, all right, guys, go shovel some more, throw some more wood in there, throw some more coal in there, put some more fuel in there, 7 times hotter. And those guys die. And he says, put them in there, tie them up, put them in there. And those guys die. So let's just continue to read here. But even if he does not, we want you to know, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. I jumped the gun. They said that, then they got thrown in. So I want us to think about this even if. Think about even if. Only if. Sometimes we operate on an only if policy with God. God, I'll serve you if you do this. God, I'll serve you if you answer my prayer. God, sometimes we act like God's our good luck charm. He's just there to take care of us. God, I'll serve you if you give me this. Well, I know your mama told you no sometimes. And we need to remember that the God of heaven sometimes says no. Sometimes he says no because he knows you don't need it. Sometimes he says no because if you had it, you don't know what to do with it. You'll misuse it. And so we need to think about what we're asking for and why we get the answer we sometimes get. But think back to the even if. Think back to the even if. But even if God does not, we want you to know, King, we will not serve you. your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. Even if you can't threaten me, Nebuchadnezzar, my God is able to deliver me. And look what happens. So think about these comments. Faith is being certain of who you will follow while being uncertain of what will follow. Sometimes we go into a situation and we don't even know how it's going to turn out. And sometimes we get scared, and sometimes we turn away from God. Sometimes we say, God, I don't need you because I don't like that answer. I'm not going to do that because that's not healthy. And we forget that God knows all. God knows all. Well, there's the old song, He's able to deliver us. He is able to deliver thee. He is able to deliver thee, though by sin oppressed. Go to Him for rest. Our God is able to deliver thee. So let's think back here to what's happening. So, they've been thrown into the furnace. The guys who threw them in are dead. It's really hot. And the king Nebuchadnezzar leaps to his feet in amazement, and he asks his advisors, didn't we put in 3 that were tied up and threw into the fire? Oh, certainly, O king. Well, look, I see 4. I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound, unharmed. And the 4th looks like the Son of God. The Son of the gods. So he is just really confused. I'm sure he's reflecting back. Well, you know, these are the... He is friends to Daniel, who told me about my... He's confused. He's confused, and he just doesn't know what to do. He doesn't understand. Because remember, it's hot. And when you throw wood in the fire, it consumes. And it just burns it up. And here we have 3 people that we put in the fire, and he finds there's a 4th one there, and they're not burning up. And they're not burning up. Nebuchadnezzar then approaches the opening of the blazing furnace and shouted, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, servants of your most high God, come out. Oh, he recognizes something there. Come here. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire. And the satraps, the prefects, and the governors, and the royal advisors crowd around him, all the smart people. Crowd around him. And they saw, listen, the fire had not harmed them, had not harmed their bodies, not their hair on their heads was singed, the robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them. Okay, we go and we gather up us a big pile of wood and we build a fire. Somebody goes to Walmart and they get the graham crackers and the Hershey chocolates and the marshmallows. And we all start making those s'mores. And we sit there and we eat till we're full. And then we go and we get in the car, and maybe your parent comes and picks you up. And they say, boy, you stink. You smell just like that campfire. Or maybe you're cooking your favorite meal on the grill. And you're out there and you've got your briquettes and your meat and you cook it. And then you come in and everybody says, you stink. You need to go take a bath before you eat. You smell like a barbecue grill. They saw that the fire had not harmed their bodies, nor was a hair on their heads singed. No robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them. And I think they were at a fire that was a little hotter than a campfire for s'mores, or the barbecue grill for your favorite food. Think about it. A lot of unusual things happening here. But I want you to think about this. Jesus may not keep you from the fire, because we all have been stuck in these fires of life. But he will always meet you in it. And that's what we have to remember, is that Jesus will come to us in the fire. Now, while we're in the fire, we don't know what else. You don't really know why this is all happening. But the world is watching. And Babylon was watching. And so Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they're standing there. They done stood up to the king and they said, even if you throw us in there, we're still going to go. We're still not going to bow down to your idol. And the rest of the country sees that God delivers them from it. That's a witness. That the God of the Hebrew children can deliver you. And we need to have that confidence in our life today. That God can deliver you from the chaos of life. God will deliver you from the fire of life. Because so many times we feel that we're being consumed, we forget who we are, that we are a Christian. We forget who we are. The question we must ask ourselves, do you have the fourth man in your life? Is God in your life? Because if the fourth man is not there, that means you've been running away from God. And you're not allowing him to work in your life. You ever expecting that you're going to walk up into the fires of life by yourself unscathed? And it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen that way. As a repeat, sometimes God takes you out of or from it or even through it. He sometimes joins you in it, that you may be in it but not be burned up. Just a repeat and a re-emphasis of what I want you to take from today. God may deliver you in the fire instead of from the fire. Reinforcing. Just saying it all these different ways to say God will deliver. God will deliver. We come to the New Testament, and the church is established, and Peter, the same guy who cussed everybody out saying, I don't know Jesus, the same guy who got up in Acts 2 and said, repent and be baptized, he's saying these words of encouragement to the church years after that first sermon in Acts 2. Because the Roman Emperor Nero had decided that he kind of took a play out of Nebuchadnezzar, and he decided that I'm in charge, you need to be bowing down to me. If you don't, you're going to die. And he had all these interesting ways that he was persecuting the first century Christians. But listen, 1 Peter 2:20. But how is it to your credit if you receive a beating for doing wrong and enduring it? But if you suffer for doing good and you endure it, this is commendable before God. So when we are living our life and people that we think are our friends are trying to trip us up, or trying to be an obstacle, or trying to help us follow the devil, and we can endure that temptation, this is commendable before God. 3 and 14, but even if you should suffer for what is right, you are blessed. But even if you should suffer for what is right, you are blessed. Do not fear what they fear. Do not be frightened. Now these people that Peter is writing to, they're getting put on a stake. They're getting burned. They're getting killed in all kinds of ways. Nero was not a good guy. It is better, verse 17, if it is God's will to suffer for doing good than for doing evil. It is better if it is God's will to suffer for doing good than for doing evil. We can get encouragement from the first century Christians that Peter is writing to. Look at these words that Peter wrote as encouragement to them, and they can be an encouragement to us today. 1 Peter 5 and 10. And the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast. Do you ever feel that you're weak, broken, and lost? Look at what Peter's saying. God can make you strong, firm, unmovable. Think about that. Steadfast, unmovable. That's the God we serve. That's the God we serve. He will come into the fire. So let's review here the things I want you to take home today. Let us have the courage of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It took courage to stand up to King Nebuchadnezzar. They had fear of pain. The mind had to be working on them. I just want you to go home and turn your stove eye on and hold your hand about that far above it. Just do it. You can't do it long. You don't even have to touch it. Just hold it above it. When I was younger, we had wood. We burned wood for heat. And in the wintertime, you would back up and you'd just stand there. And then eventually you'd say, well, I've had enough of that. You can do it to your heat in your home. And look at these guys. They remembered that God would come to them and help them in the fire, that God is in the fire. And then think about the even if faith. Even if you throw me in the fire, I'm still not going to worship your idol. That is so hard for us to swallow and implement into our lives today. Because we are so blessed that we live in a country that doesn't put those kind of pressures on you. But yet you can go to some countries in the world and there are pressure being put on them because they want to worship God and they worship God in secret. God gives you the best fire insurance policy there is. Complete protection in the fire. And I'm not only talking about the fire in the furnace, but the fires that are in hell. It can deliver you from the fires of hell. Remember, in the garden, you shall surely die. And Jesus came to save you. And remember that we are giving a witness to the watching world. So that world looks at you and they say, well, those Christians, they believe it. As we close out today, I want you to start thinking and reflect on yourself and see if you are trying to be the best Christian you can be. Are you standing up for God? Are you allowing God to come meet you in the fires of life? Or are you constantly pushing and pushing and pushing Him away? So many times the answer is there and we push it away. Oh, that's not the answer I'm looking for. That's that only if answer, not the even if answer. And we need to accept God when He tells us no in life and not get mad at Him and say, I'm not coming back to that church because I'm not going back to church because this, that, and the other happened. If we can help you today and you need to come forward and you need to engage in prayer with the Father, that's what today is for. If you want to come and begin your walk with Jesus and be buried with Him in a watery grave of baptism, to come forth and to walk a new life, today's the day. If we can help you, if you just have a question, come as we stand and sing.